Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. My name is Melanie, and this is another Calling Creatives with Nikki from Nikki's Scrapbooking Adventure. Happy New Year, Nikki.
Happy New Year! So we're talking unfinished projects or UFOs.
Yes, and we already started this conversation over on Nikki's channel on Monday. We are switching up the order a little bit. If you haven't already seen Nikki's video, be sure to head over there. The link is in the description below to her channel. And we are going to continue on with basically talking about strategies, possibly, or ideas for completing our unfinished projects. And so Nikki's the queen of not having any unfinished projects, or so she said. But upon further discussion, it seems she has a little more, maybe, than she was admitting in the first episode.
Yeah, so I went to go get down the album I was originally talking about, which was this one. And then I spied several other projects that were not done. And guess what they were? Mini albums.
Fair enough. So Nikki was showing me this album here. This is the one of her and her husband, and it's super cute. And I'm trying to convince her that she needs to finish the album. And I know she's not feeling inspired to. And so I was thinking, again, along the lines of different strategies, is, you can turn something into like that into a through the years kind of album. And maybe you just include a photo of you and your husband every year. And it may take you, 10 years to finish. But, at least then at the end, you'd have this kind of cute synopsis of your guys' life together.
Yeah. I think the original idea with this album was that it was up to wedding day. But at this point, we've been married for 7 years. That's 7 years of photos I can totally get in here.
Yeah, so I think you should do that. It doesn't have to be a big project, just, or if you're scrapbooking a layout and you come across, or you use a really cute photo, just print it twice and just pop the other one in your little mini album. Before you know it, you'll have it finished.
Right. So we'll see what happens. The other one, it was an intended project. We talked about that last time with Melanie's. She has a purpose for the album, but it's not done yet. And I had a couple here. May made its folios with the intention that each of these would be a little bit of a different like theme. So for example, Mary had a little lamb, could be like my son and the dog pictures, right? Little boy blue, come blow your horn, he's fast asleep in the haystack. You play so hard you fall asleep.
Yep.
Nighttime with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And then Rockabye Baby could be like baby photos. And then I have another one of these, same project as Humpty Dumpty, where it could be when my son gets hurt.
Well, there you go. So they're almost like chapters, right? Like little chapters of his life. Oh, that's awesome. Are they going to be like, how do you store these? Just together on a shelf?
Together on a shelf. And I kind of messed up the spines. So like you can see I added the little clasp so it's not square. It is kind of driving me nuts.
Maybe you can still fix it. Can you move them?
I don't know. But it's going to be like, birth to 18. So that's an unfinished object. However, I also have like 18 years plus to finish. Right.
It's an ongoing project. That's kind of, you could work on it throughout the years, so to speak. Cool.
Yep.
So one of the points, and this actually leads into you discovering these projects that you kind of had forgotten about it. I'm one of the strategies I need to employ myself is I need to organize these. And by organizing, I don't necessarily mean putting them all in one place, but what I would really like to do is actually have a list of all of them and what the intended purpose was. And if there wasn't a purpose, if I can come up with a purpose for it, or, at least keep it in the back of my mind that I have this album. So an example, I have this little mini album. It's called Autumn Memories. So it's very dedicated to fall photos. I live in California and fall here is really in the winter, which sounds kind of funny, but like right now our leaves are turning yellow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird kind of situation. And so it's hard for me to come up with enough photos to fill an autumn book. So I need to be very deliberate in it. Now, there's things I could do. I could go to the apple orchard, I could, explore different things to fill this book in. But because it's not something that's like just a natural thing that I would do, I would need to make a point, right? I would say 2024 is the year that I'm going to go out and take autumn pictures so that I can fill this autumn book. So those are the kind of things that I want to think about to try and actually use these up.
I like that idea. So having a list of the albums that are empty and maybe just like a description of them. It doesn't necessarily have to have a purpose at this point, but just even having a description so that, you can pull that piece of paper out or hang it somewhere even so then you see it more often. I notice out of sight, out of mind, clearly because I went up to the top shelf and was like, oh, I've got that one project that I did for YouTube that is my traveler's notebooks that I did past, present, and future on and never touched it again.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I like your point of hanging it up or having it someplace visible. So it's kind of in the forefront, even if they are tucked away somewhere. So that's kind of one of the things I would like to do. So I have amassed a bunch of these on my desk. And they're not all like those were handmade, but like I have like a 6x6, a 6x8 album. And it's all ready to go. Everything's done. It just needs photos. Well, I did do a cruise in 2023 that I haven't scrapbooked yet. Perfect, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. And I just have to sit down and guess what? Again, print photos.
If you haven't watched Monday's video, Melanie and I dive kind of deeply, not really deeply, but into what kind of printers we have, what inks we use, what paper we use. So check that out.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, if you've got any suggestions or tips and tricks, let us know on printing photos because, this is a recurring theme with me. So that's kind of what I think I would like to do in the next little bit is kind of organize all of these and kind of either allocate or, like you said, describe them so I know what's what. Now, I'm talking about mini albums here. This doesn't just have to be mini albums. This could be your 12 by 12 albums that are in progress that maybe do have a start and an end point that you want to work on or complete. I also have a large container and shelves on the bookshelf of empty albums. So they're not projects in and of themselves, but maybe, especially some of the more specific sizes, I can come up with ideas for using them. Maybe that can trigger a new project and hopefully not another uncompleted one. But that is something that I would like to do. And then while I'm doing that, the other thing that I would like to do is assess whether or not I want to finish them. So we talked about this on Monday, where you said you had some and you aren't going to finish them.
Yep. So I've got my 2022 albums where the photos just aren't inspiring me, and inspiration is key when it comes to my scrapbooking style. And so I'm thinking I might just call those albums done for now and move them from my to be done to my done pile. And then if I want to, I can always go back and add. I have a binder system, so it's super easy to go back and do that.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And I think we also talked about this a little bit, that sometimes the purpose of whatever it is that you're making was the making, and that there doesn't necessarily have to be any, finished project that has completed with photos, et cetera, et cetera. And if you are okay still keeping that in its current state, you can call it done and be okay with it. Or the other option, dare I say this, is you may want to purge it.
Well, so I don't know about purging. I was thinking Etsy.
Oh, okay.
You have a whole bunch of those albums that are completed. Go through the list, pick the ones that are your favorites, and then try to sell the other ones. I know there's like a whole other thing with doing Etsy, but I've been dabbling with that a little bit. I'm like, I have all of those base pages. How easy would it be to bundle them for like $5 and send them to somebody who will actually use them?
That's a good idea. That is a good idea. Here's I need an assistant who will take care of that for me because it doesn't sound like fun. Like the whole like selling part is it just does not sound like felt fun to me. But I can see that that would definitely be a good avenue, especially if there's nothing wrong with the project or the
Right.
item, right? Yeah, good
Yep.
idea. Have you actually opened up an Etsy shop?
I opened up an Etsy shop back in 2012 to sell my jewelry. I didn't sell anything and I only had like two pieces on there, but I was really big into jewelry making at that point and loved my projects. But they just didn't sell. And that's okay. Maybe that's you let it sit out there forever, drop the price, have a sale, and then it sells, right? Like
And does
I
Etsy charge you anything for just having it on the site?
They do, but it's like I don't know, $1 to list. I don't know the numbers, so I think it's like $1, and then they
Okay.
charge you a percentage for the actual item that you sell.
Yeah, I get from the selling perspective. I wasn't sure if they had a listing fee. Okay, so that's interesting. So actually, I have a question for our viewers because I'm assuming the majority of you are crafters. And so if you're like me, I usually look at projects and go, I could make that. And so I don't end up buying those types of things. So it's almost like you need to cater to a different market. So I'm curious if you're watching, would you buy a completed project from someone? Or would you go, I could make it? I'm curious.
So I buy the card kits that are already done from people because I'm not a card maker. Yeah, I could totally make it. I've got the supplies, but I don't enjoy it as much. And
Right.
so my local scrapbook store, she sells all of her samples. And so I buy them from her. And it's amazing because they look beautiful. They've got glitter. I don't have to deal with glitter, you know. So that's one thing that I do buy is already made cards.
But that makes sense to me because that's something you don't do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that makes sense that you would buy them because you're not interested in making them on your own. So that totally makes sense. I guess the question is if you are someone that say makes mini albums, would you buy a mini album?
I did. Again, my local scrapbook store was going out of business and she used the Simple Stories vintage line
Okay.
as like a We Are Family Photos Remember album. I'm looking at it right
Okay.
now. I keep looking that way. And I bought it and I was like, oh, I would love to add photos and then gift it to my grandma. She's really big into that stuff.
Oh, that's great. So you actually bought it with a purpose. So that's cool. Now
Mm-hmm.
the question is, do you consider that an unfinished project?
No, because I don't even have the photos.
And it's not your project, right? Well, you
Right.
sort of turned it into your project.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I don't know. I could just send it to her and then maybe she adds her own photos, but I haven't really looked at it. Like if there's different sizes on
yeah,
there, I don't know that she would know that she has to cut them down to 4x3.
right.
Like,
So you're actually going to use her photos to fill the book.
I don't know yet. I
We'll see.
bought it because it was cheap. It was 50%
Hey,
off, whatever,
absolutely.
and it
Yeah,
was beautiful.
absolutely. So yeah, so anyways, for our viewers, if you would you buy a completed album? And by completed I mean of course without photos, but would you, because that would be kind of weird to buy an album with photos, but would you buy an album that is basically put together? I'd love to know.
Mhm.
Okay, so now let's assume we're all organized, right? We know what we have, we know kind of what we're gonna do, what direction we're headed with some of these. So the next thing that I'm actually going to employ is a challenge. So I like to do something called Finish It February, which the month of February, all I do is focus on completing projects. And it can be anything from, I think last year I finished my December daily in February. I will work on kits, that kind of thing. So my goal this year, there's no way I could do all of these albums. None whatsoever. But I think I would like to work on this one. No promises here. I think I would like to work on this one and just get that documented. It's a fairly recent trip, so it's kind of fun, right? Because it's recent. So I think I would like to work on that. And then we'll see where else we go as far as the albums go. But I also have, I think you mentioned either in last call or maybe even this one, base pages. So I
Mm-hmm.
have stacks of base pages. Now this is my overflow.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I have a white bin that's probably 13 by 10. That's also full of base pages.
Okay, I gotta see some of these base pages. Will you hold up with some? I just want to see like how done are they, right? Like I've got some base pages that are just paper on there, no photo placements, nothing else, just paper.
So something
Okay.
like that's a little generic. I have
Mm-hmm.
a variety. I have some 2-page spreads. Let me see if I can hold this up. I use my scraps. So that's what I do with my scraps is I make base pages. So this would be
Ooh, look at those. That's fun.
yeah. This was totally inspired by this paper. And then I just used my punches to make the embellishments. So I have stuff like that, or, you know, some of them have a little bit more defined. Like this has got a 5x5 spot for a photo. Do I have to put a 5x5 photo on there? No. I could do 4x6 with a little bit of over like layered look.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. And then I also have some that are very, very defined. A lot of these are from classes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I have a ton. Again, guess what I have to do? Print photos.
You know what
So
would be fun? I was just thinking about this randomly. Like I was looking at some of those pages. I love them. It would be fun to do like a base page swap. You know,
ooh,
you
that would
go
be cool.
through your base pages and you pick out the ones that you aren't sure that you would use, and then you like gift them to the other person you swap.
We could totally do that.
That sounds like so much fun.
That would be fun.
I
Um,
wonder, so there's Ginger's Corner, somebody on YouTube, and she has a Facebook group that does a whole bunch of swaps. I wonder if I can convince her to host a swap on our Facebook group.
that would be fun. The only problem is 12 by 12 are tricky to mail.
No, you can just get a flat rate box.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But would we fill the whole box? I mean, I could
I
fill the
mean,
whole box. I don't know if
right.
anyone else could. Or I guess you just fill it as much as you want and stuff it with paper or whatever.
Yeah, or like there's a limit of 10 or something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you feel so generous, you can add more if you want.
Because Melanie has no more space.
She's like, I'm just gonna gift like 3 extra boxes to people.
Yeah. And what I like to do with base pages is I actually like to print photos and then go look for the page to fit the photo. And it's always
You need to
amazing
print those
how
photos, girl.
I know, I know. Maybe that should be my finish at February's print, print a ton of photos. So that's something I would like to work on as well and finish at February. And I also have this album. I just saw this one now and I just remembered that I would like to do that. So it's called Life Captured. And it was, I think this was a Simple Stories
Yep.
line. And it was kind of like a document the year kind of thing. Like it had January, February, March, pages. So I like to do a year in review. Usually I do like a month in review, I guess is really technically what it's called, where you do like a 2-page layout to represent each month. And I kind of use my odd photos that I'm not going to do a layout for on there. But because I have this, I thought maybe instead of doing those 12 by 12 pages, I would just put all those photos in here. So that might be something I do for 2023. And what I like about that is that at least the year is documented, even if not all the individual stories are, fully fleshed out.
Yeah, I actually, so having little hands in my house, I have to kind of be thinking about like 12 by 12 is massive and hard to flip the pages. it would be fun to switch to something like that, a mini album for your month in review.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a good idea. I didn't think about
Hmm.
it kind of like on an ongoing basis. I just was thinking, because I have this album, what am I going to
Yeah.
use it for? And it's literally like it's got, number 4 for month 4. That's
Mhm.
kind of how it was designed. Yeah,
And then Purple Stories just came out with their new collection, Noteworthy, which I think is a similar idea, right? It's, I think it's got every month in it. I don't know if it has that collection that you're talking about had a patterned piece of paper and then cut aparts on the back. And
correct.
Epic Park did the same thing, right? Like they always kind of have come out with something similar every year. So does Graphic 45. Like it's a
Yeah.
common kit.
So those are the kind of ones that are rising to the surface, so to speak. And I would like to make some progress on my ongoing albums. Speaking of which, I've tried to find a couple of them and they are not where they used to be, which means in my organization I moved them someplace that I thought was better, and I don't know where I put them. So that might trigger a search. But like I have a little album like this. It's meant to be a camera, and it's a travel album, and it's pictures of me at all different locations around the world, and it's ongoing because I'm always traveling. So
Mhm.
it's been probably about 10 years since I updated this. So again, I probably need to go through the last 10 years of trips and just find pictures of me in a photo, which is not always so easy, at the
Right.
place, right? And that is the criteria for this. I have to be in the photo, versus just, a cool picture of a location. I have an album for that too, because I like to have lots of projects. But I don't know. So like I said, some of those ongoing albums, maybe, resurrect them a little bit, make some progress. I don't know. February
Mhm.
is going to come really quick and I'm gone for a week in it. So that's already maybe too many options, but I would
You don't need
encourage
to print
people.
photos, like, do free prints for a couple months, do Snapfish, Shutterfly, do them all, and just get a whole bunch of photos
Yeah.
sent to your
Yeah.
way.
The problem though is like when you're doing something like this where it's got all different sizes, like I can't always cut a 4x6 photo down to a 2x2. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I tend to try and fill the frame, a fair amount of the photo. And so to trim it down is difficult. So, but what I could do is take something like this with me on my trip with my photos and figure out how to edit them down and have them ready to be printed. I could do something like that. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
One other strategy that I like to use is procrastination and deadlines, right? So I don't know what, my brain doesn't even think about gifts until a week before. And I'm like, oh, I want to make a baby book for my cousin in the time of a week. And so I have this strict deadline where whatever project it is has to get done. So, for example, I'm working on my garage right now. My goal is to get it done by this weekend. So it's going to happen because I have a deadline, right?
well, good for you for sticking to self-imposed deadlines for something like that. I'm not very good at it. I mean, unless it's something that I know, like for instance, if I'm making an album for a family member in Canada and I'm going there, I know I have to meet that deadline. But if it's just for myself, meh, deadline can move a little bit. Not such a great uh function for me, but it is one of the other points that if you're not into challenges per se, maybe do something like set a goal or commit to at least working on some of your unfinished projects once a quarter, once a month, whatever fits your priorities, but like try and make it a point to at least tackle some of it at some point so that you do make some progress.
Mhm. Also, carve out the time to do it, right? Like maybe put it on your schedule every night. This week, I'm going to work on this project for 20 minutes.
Right. Right. And that's a good point. It doesn't have to be hours, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. You can still make progress. You can print a lot of photos in 30 minutes.
Yeah, Melanie, you can print a lot of photos in 30 minutes, can't you?
as you're sitting there watching TV, right?
Mhm. Instead of scrolling on your phone through Instagram Reels and TikToks.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as starting new projects,
Mhm.
I don't I don't have anything new on the agenda, so to speak, at this point, other than just my normal, now that we're in 2024, I'll have a 2024 album. But yeah, that can change in a heartbeat. All it takes is, one little inspiration, and the next thing you know, I'm off and running. I did
Uh-huh.
sign up for I think a Pink Fresh class here in February as well.
Mm.
So which means I'll have more unfinished kits. I do have some card kits that haven't been finished. So it's not that I don't have enough to do.
Right.
For sure
I
not.
did the Pink Fresh Create and Connect. And I think that's kind of what you're doing, right? They send you a
Yeah.
box of goodies that's brand new, and then you get a couple projects out of it. I was able to keep up. Like I finished all of the layouts during the videos as they went along because didn't they did it with us. So like the
Right.
timing was perfect.
Yeah.
Um, so I really enjoyed that. Vicky Booten's class I did was very long, very, very long, but
Yeah.
I also finished that.
Yeah. So that's good that you craft along. I can't craft along.
Oh,
I
interesting.
Yeah, I've tried, and I actually don't like to watch videos and craft, like to follow what they're doing. I'd rather have the paper instructions and just do it on my own.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's so weird because it's like, Melanie, you're paying for this, right? Like, I mean, I still get the same end result, but the class in and of itself is not the most important part. I will go and watch the video if it's something new that I like, a new concept or a new technique that I can't quite grasp from reading the instructions. And I'm
Hmm.
sure I miss out on tips and tricks. I'm sure I do, right? But I don't know. I think it's just either I'm ahead of them or I'm behind. I just can't seem to be at the same pace that they are. And so it's
Hmm.
just easier for me to just do them on my own. Plus, to have that amount of dedicated time, these are usually over a couple days.
Yeah,
I just, yeah, it just isn't going to happen. So,
I get it.
it's what it is. But good
Well,
for
add it
you
to your
for keeping up.
UFO.
Yeah, so that's our UFOs. And so I would love to hear from the users. What are you inspired, I guess? Are you inspired to tackle some of your unfinished objects or unfinished projects in your space? And what are your plans, or how do you think you're going to go about getting it done? If you're part of my Facebook of Creatively Crafted Memories, the link is below. Be sure to post some photos of your projects, because we'd love to see what it is that you're up to, maybe where you're at, and when you're done, that would be great. And if you want an accountability partner, just let me know, and I can always nudge you in a couple months to see where you're at. I think that's it. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, I don't think so. Make sure to check out Monday's video. There's a lot of fun topics that we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And until next time, everyone, happy crafting.